There is a quiet truth that has been whispering to you for a very long time, and it does not shout, it does not demand, it does not force its way into your awareness. It waits patiently, like a loving presence sitting beside you, knowing that one day you will finally be still enough to hear it. That truth is this: your life is not happening yesterday, and it is not happening tomorrow. It is happening now. And the only place you will ever meet God, peace, healing, or freedom is in this sacred, living moment you are breathing in right now. Most of the pain you carry is not actually here. It is memory. It is imagination. It is the mind replaying what has already ended or rehearsing what has not yet arrived. The body sits in a chair. The heart continues to beat. The breath continues to move in and out, yet the mind travels endlessly backward and forward, dragging you away from the only place where grace exists. The past has no heartbeat. The future has no breath. Only this moment is alive, and only what is alive can heal you. You were not created to live as a curator of old wounds. You were not meant to keep polishing the stories of what went wrong, who failed you, what you should have said, or what should never have happened. Those stories feel powerful, but they are weight, not wisdom. They are habits of thought that have mistaken familiarity for truth. And every time you revisit them, you give them energy, you give them life, you invite them back into your nervous system as if they are still happening now, but they are not happening now. They are echoes, and echoes only continue if you keep shouting into the canyon. The ego thrives on the past because the past gives it an identity. This is who I am because this is what happened to me. The ego needs comparison, grievance, pride, regret, and justification in order to feel real. It wants to remind you of your mistakes so you stay small, or remind you of your victories so you stay separate. But your soul has no interest in replay. Your soul only knows presence. It only knows expansion. It only knows truth as it is unfolding right now. When you let go of the past, you are not denying that events occurred. You are releasing your attachment to their emotional charge. You are choosing peace over being right. You are choosing freedom over familiarity. You are choosing to trust that who you are now is not defined by what you survived, but by what you are willing to align with in this moment. Healing is not about fixing the past. Healing is about no longer living there. There is a divine intelligence moving through you at this very instant, coordinating breath, heartbeat, digestion, intuition, and insight without asking for your permission or your worry. That same intelligence knows exactly how to guide you forward if you will stop interrupting it with fear-based thinking. You do not need to manage your life with anxiety. You need to align your life with presence. God does not speak through regret. God speaks through stillness. When you are fully here, resentment dissolves. When you are fully here, forgiveness becomes natural, not forced. Forgiveness is not something you do for someone else. It is something that happens automatically when you realize that carrying anger requires you to keep revisiting a moment that no longer exists. There are no justified resentments because resentment always asks you to sacrifice your peace in exchange for a story. And no story is worth that price. You may believe that holding on keeps you safe, but holding on is what exhausts you. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is trust. It is saying, I no longer need to drag yesterday into today in order to feel whole. You are already whole. You were whole before the event, during the event, and after the event. Nothing real was ever taken from you. What left was never meant to define you. The present moment is not empty. It is full. It is filled with guidance, clarity, creativity, and love. But you cannot access what is here if your attention is elsewhere. Attention is energy. Where you place it determines what grows in your life. When your attention rests in the now, your nervous system softens. Your body remembers how to regulate. Your mind remembers how to observe instead of control. And your soul remembers why it chose this lifetime. Being with God is not about rituals, rules, or reaching some distant spiritual state. Being with God is awareness without resistance. It is presence without commentary. It is noticing the breath without judging it. It is listening without preparing a response. It is allowing life to be exactly as it is without demanding that it justify itself to you. God is not found in your struggle. God is found in your surrender. Surrender does not mean passivity. It means alignment. It means releasing the illusion that you are separate from the source of life. The moment you stop arguing with reality, peace rushes in. Not because circumstances suddenly change, but because you do. You step out of the role of victim and into the awareness of witness, and the witness is always free. Every time you return to the present moment, you break an old pattern. You loosen the grip of conditioning. You interrupt generations of unconscious living. You teach your mind that safety is not found in control, but in trust. And trust is the language of the soul. Trust says, I don't need to know how this will unfold in order to be at peace right now. The past will try to call you back. It will disguise itself as responsibility, as loyalty, as realism, but watch carefully. Notice how it tightens your chest, how it shortens your breath, how it pulls you out of your body and into your head. Then notice what happens when you come back to now. The shoulders drop, the breath deepens, the heart opens. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You are not here to perfect your past. You are here to embody presence. You are here to remember that your worth is not negotiable and does not fluctuate based on memory. You are here to live from essence, not from history. The moment you stop asking the past for permission to be happy, your life changes. God is not waiting for you in some future version of yourself. God is with you now, in the ordinary, in the quiet, in the breath between thoughts. When you stop chasing enlightenment and start noticing awareness, you realize it has always been here. You do not become spiritual. You remember that you are. So let the past rest. It has done all it can do. Thank it for the lessons, release it from the burden of defining you, and step fully into this moment. This moment is enough. You are enough. And in this now, free of regret and anticipation, you will find what you have been searching for all along, not a better story, but a deeper presence. And in that presence, you will know without question that you are never alone, never broken, and never separate from the divine intelligence that has been carrying you every step of the way. And as you remain here, anchored in this living instant, something subtle yet profound begins to occur. You notice that the urgency to become someone else starts to fade. The pressure to fix, improve, or defend yourself loosens its grip. You realize that the deepest peace does not come from achieving a future state, but from recognizing the quiet perfection of what already is. The present moment does not ask you to be different. It asks you to be honest about what you feel, what you sense, and what is quietly true beneath the noise of expectation. There is a gentle power in this honesty. When you stop resisting your inner experience, you stop feeding the inner conflict. Thoughts may still arise, emotions may still pass through, but they no longer define you. They become weather moving across a vast sky, and you at last recognize yourself as the sky, not the storm. This is not detachment from life, it is intimacy with it. You are closer to yourself than you have ever been, precisely because you are no longer chasing an image of who you think you should be. In this space, compassion naturally awakens, not the kind that is forced or moralized, but the kind that flows effortlessly when you see clearly. You begin to understand that every human being you have encountered was acting from their own level of awareness. Hurt did not come from malice alone, but from confusion, fear, and unconsciousness. This understanding does not excuse behavior, but it frees you from carrying its residue. Compassion is the recognition that pain is never personal, even when it feels intimate. And as compassion deepens, so does gratitude, not for the events themselves, but for the awakening they catalyze. You see that every challenge was an invitation to remember who you are beneath the roles and reactions. Gratitude becomes less about saying thank you for pleasant outcomes and more about honoring the intelligence that guided you through the experience. You begin to trust that nothing in your life was random and nothing was wasted. The present moment becomes a doorway through which guidance flows. Decisions no longer arise from panic or overanalysis, but from a quieter knowing. You listen more. You pause more. You act less from habit and more from alignment. This is the difference between effort and inspiration. Effort drains you because it comes from the belief that you are separate and must struggle. Inspiration energizes you because it flows from the awareness that you are connected and supported. You may notice that simplicity starts to appeal to you. Not as an aesthetic choice, but as a spiritual one. You feel less compelled to accumulate, to prove, to impress. Your joy becomes less dependent on external conditions and more rooted in inner steadiness. This is not withdrawal from the world. It is engagement without attachment. You participate fully, yet you are no longer owned by outcomes. In the present moment, even uncertainty softens. You realize that needing certainty was never about wisdom, it was about fear. Life has always been uncertain, yet you are still here. Breath has never required guarantees. The heart has never needed a 5-year plan to beat. When you trust the moment, you trust life itself. And life responds by meeting you with exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. There is a sacred humility that emerges when you live this way. You no longer place yourself above or below anyone. Comparison loses its relevance because you are no longer measuring worth. You see yourself as an expression of the same source that animates everything else. This recognition dissolves loneliness at its root. You are not separate, waiting to be included. You belong by virtue of being. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, love becomes your default state. Not romantic love, not conditional love, but an underlying warmth toward existence itself. You find yourself kinder, not because you are trying to be good, but because kindness feels natural when resistance is gone. You speak more gently. You listen more deeply. You forgive more readily. These are not disciplines you force upon yourself. They are byproducts of presence. The present moment continues to teach you, if you let it. It teaches you that peace is not fragile. It does not shatter when things go wrong. It bends, adapts, and remains. It teaches you that strength is quiet, not aggressive. It teaches you that surrender is not giving up, but opening up. And with each return to now, you reaffirm a simple, transformative truth. You are being lived by something infinitely wiser than your thinking mind. So stay here, again and again. When the mind wanders, gently return. When fear arises, breathe and remain. When joy appears, allow it without grasping. This is the practice, and it is also the reward. In choosing the present moment, you choose God not as a concept, but as a living experience. And in that choice, you discover that the peace you were seeking was never ahead of you or behind you. It has always been where you are willing to be. And as this awareness settles more deeply into your being, you begin to sense a quiet confidence that has nothing to do with achievement. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It simply is. You notice that you no longer feel compelled to explain yourself to the world or to rehearse your worth through effort. There is a grounded knowing that your existence itself is the permission. You are here because you belong here. Life did not make a mistake when it brought you into form. From this place, time feels different. Moments stretch open. You notice details that once slipped past you, unnotice the texture of a breath, the softness of light, the simple miracle of being aware at all. You realize that much of what you once called missing out was simply missing the present. And now that you are here, truly here, there is a richness to even the most ordinary experiences. Washing your hands, walking across a room, listening to another human speak, everything becomes infused with quiet significance. You begin to understand that peace does not require life to slow down. It requires you to stop racing ahead of it. The world can move quickly while you remain inwardly still. This stillness is not numbness, it is clarity. From it you respond instead of react. You choose instead of defend. You allow instead of resist. And in doing so, you discover that you have far more influence over your inner state than you were ever taught to believe. The ego may still knock on the door from time to time, offering familiar invitations, worry, comparison, self-doubt. But now you recognize its voice. You no longer confuse it with wisdom. You see it as a pattern, not an authority. And with a gentle smile, you let it pass without following it. Freedom is not the absence of ego, it is the absence of obedience to it. In this freedom, creativity awakens. Not the pressured creativity that tries to prove something, but the natural expression that flows when you are aligned with life. Ideas come without strain. Solutions emerge without force. You stop trying to control outcomes and start cooperating with intelligence. This cooperation feels like grace. Things unfold with a timing that feels both surprising and deeply familiar, as if life has been waiting for you to stop interfering. You may notice that your relationships change as well. When you are present, you listen without preparing your reply. You see without projecting your past. You love without bargaining for security. This kind of presence is healing not just for you, but for everyone you encounter. People feel it immediately. They feel seen, not evaluated. and in your presence, they are reminded of their own. There is a sacred responsibility that comes with this awareness, but it is not heavy. It is simply the responsibility to return to presence again and again, not perfectly, not constantly, just sincerely. Each return is an act of love. Each moment of awareness is a quiet vote for peace. And over time, these moments accumulate, reshaping not just your inner life, but the energy you bring into the world. You begin to sense that your life is less about getting somewhere and more about expressing something. You are not on a journey toward wholeness. You are allowing wholeness to move through you. This realization dissolves impatience. There is no rush when you are no longer trying to arrive. You are already here. And here, in this unadorned moment, you discover a profound truth. God has never been distant. God has never been withheld. God has never been earned or lost. God has always been present, waiting quietly behind your thoughts, beneath your striving, beyond your stories. When you rest in now, you rest in that presence. And in that resting, you remember what you are. So continue. Breathe. Notice. Allow. Let the past remain finished and the future remain unwritten. Give yourself fully to this moment, not as a technique, but as a devotion. Because when you are with the present, you are with life. When you are with life, you are with love. And when you are with love, you are exactly where you were meant to be. And in this quiet continuity of awareness, you may begin to notice something even more subtle, an inner ease that does not depend on circumstances cooperating. It is the ease of no longer arguing with what is. You stop asking the moment to be different so that you can finally relax. You relax first. And from that relaxation, life begins to respond differently. This is not because you have mastered some technique, but because you have stepped out of resistance. Resistance was the tension. Presence is the release. You start to see that much of what once felt heavy was never the situation itself, but the story you told about it. When the story loosens, the weight lifts. The mind may still narrate, but it no longer dominates. It becomes a tool rather than a tyrant. You use it when it is helpful, and you set it down when it is not. Silence becomes just as meaningful as thought. In that silence, you feel guided, not by fear, but by a quiet inner alignment that does not need justification. There is a deep kindness that grows toward yourself in this space. You stop scolding yourself for having wandered, for having forgotten, for having struggled. You realize that forgetting was part of remembering. That wandering was part of finding your way back. You no longer measure your worth by consistency or perfection. You measure it by sincerity. Each moment you return to now is enough. Nothing more is required. As this kindness stabilizes, the body responds. You may feel less tightness, less urgency, less bracing against life. The breath becomes fuller. The eyes soften. Even the way you move through space changes. You are no longer rushing to outrun discomfort or clinging to pleasure. You are simply participating. Life stops feeling like a problem to solve and starts feeling like a process to experience. You may notice that fear, when it arises, no longer terrifies you. You meet it with curiosity rather than panic. You feel it in the body, acknowledge its presence, and remain. And in remaining, you discover that fear is impermanent. It cannot survive sustained awareness. It needs avoidance or amplification to persist. When you stay present, fear passes like a wave returning to the ocean. This is where true trust is born, not the kind that hopes everything will turn out a certain way, but the kind that knows you will be okay regardless of how things unfold. Trust rooted in presence is unshakable because it is not attached to outcomes. It is anchored in being. And being is stable. Being is constant. Being does not come and go. You begin to live less from reaction and more from intention. Not intention as force, but intention as alignment. You sense what feels true and follow that quiet signal without overthinking it. You speak when words are needed and remain silent when they are not. You act when action is called for and wait when waiting feels right. This attunement is not passive. It is deeply intelligent. Over time, you may realize that the search itself has softened. You are no longer scanning life for signs that you are doing it right. You are no longer asking for reassurance from the future. The seeking energy relaxes because it has found what it was looking for, not an answer, but a home. The present moment becomes that home, familiar, steady, alive. And from this home, love flows without effort. You do not try to be loving. You simply are less defended, less guarded, less preoccupied with self-protection. Love does not need to be manufactured when the walls fall away. It is what remains when fear is no longer in charge. You see this love not as something personal, but as a quality of awareness itself. You may still have goals. You may still dream and plan and create, but now these arise from inspiration rather than lack. You are not trying to escape the present by reaching the future. You are allowing the present to express itself forward. This changes everything. Even success feels lighter because it is no longer carrying the burden of self-worth. And so the invitation remains simple, moment after moment. Return, notice, allow. Let each now be enough. Let God meet you where you are, not where you think you should be. Because in this meeting, quiet and intimate, you will continue to discover that the life you were waiting for has been unfolding all along, right here, in the only place it has ever been. And as this unfolding gently completes itself, you may sense that nothing more needs to be added. There is a fullness in simply being here, a completeness that does not ask for validation. You are no longer reaching for meaning because meaning is present in the act of awareness itself. This is the quiet miracle when striving ends, life reveals itself as enough. You may notice that gratitude arises without effort. Not gratitude tied to specific outcomes, but a deeper appreciation for existence as it is, for breath, for consciousness, for the simple fact that you are here to witness, to feel, to experience. Gratitude becomes less of an emotion and more of a state of being. It hums beneath everything, steady and calm, like a gentle yes to life. In this state, you understand that nothing was ever missing. The sense of lack was created by attention turned away from the present. When attention returns, wholeness reveals itself. You were never broken, you were distracted, and now, in this moment of presence, the distraction loosens its hold. You come home to yourself, not as an idea, but as a living reality. The future no longer feels like a threat or a promise. It becomes a natural extension of now unfolding at its own pace. You trust it, not because you know what it holds, but because you know who you are being as it arrives. And that makes all the difference. When you are rooted in presence, whatever comes can be met with clarity and grace. You may feel a quiet reverence for life as it moves through you, a sense that you are participating in something vast and intelligent, something that does not require your control to function beautifully. This reverence is not awe from a distance, it is intimacy. It is knowing that the same presence you seek is the presence you are. And so there is nothing left to chase, nothing left to fix, nothing left to resolve before you are allowed to rest. Rest is here. Peace is here. God is here. Not as a concept to understand, but as an experience to inhabit. You do not step into it. You allow yourself to notice that you have always been within it. Let the mind soften. Let the heart remain open. Let this moment be exactly as it is, without commentary. This is not an ending.